Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Welcome on in, everybody, to another Monday night Sports Buffoons show. My name's Tanner. This is JG on the oppo side, and in the middle here we got Nick Bodkins of the Bodkins Show. I was on his weekly show, episode number 2, last night. We talked a little JG hot takes. We talked how the Sports Buffoon went. Then we talked a little Royals, Cubs, Packers, Chiefs, and whatever else really came up. So that was a fun time. And then he also has this weekly show on Tuesdays of a sports recap, weekly recaps. So make sure you guys check that out. Nick, welcome in, man.
Thanks, man. Well, thanks. I'm still, recovering from that hot take to the JG last week. So, took me a while to recover. So I'm back. I had to make sure I wasn't dreaming when he said what he said. So, but I'm back, baby.
Hey, you know what? You made it past the first hot take. There's many more to come. Trust me. JG, Welcome in, dude. Glad you're coming back here.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I don't mean to let you down, but I don't really have a whole lot of hot takes planned for this one. But maybe I can just pull one out of my ass. So stay tuned.
I love it. So, guys, we got some few things to talk about here. We're gonna talk a little bit Utah Jazz, Qyinn Snyder drama. Then we're gonna hop into our number one most concern for each team of the NBA Finals. And then we're going to talk about our original picks that we did and if we're worried about the Warriors actually winning. So, and MVPs maybe too, right? Right here, this guy. So we'll see what happens there. But let's kick it off, guys. Oh, by the way, before we kick it off, apologize. You can find the Sports Buffoons, guys, every Monday and Wednesday. Monday night, we come with Nick Bodkins here. He'll stick with us here through the football season as well. And then JG, I believe you're either going to stay on or hop off. Mike's going to join. Like we're gonna have some stuff going on Mondays. Mondays isn't going away after the finals, so we're going to do some different stuff. I'm excited for a kind of a 2-night adventure. Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central, you can find us on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter for the Sports Buffoons Show, where we just do our thing, talk fantasy football, talk a little NBA. It's a little bit of whatever comes up, what's hot at the moment. So you make sure you catch us there. And then, like I said, Nick on Sunday nights around 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Central area, and then Tuesday nights as well for the weekly report. So make sure you guys go check it out, follow, subscribe, do what you do, promote the community. Then let's talk sports as well. Got to promote those guys, huge without them. So definitely keep an eye out for those guys to do some things. So. But hey, let's kick it off here. Utah Jazz, Qyinn Snyder part. Essentially, Qyinn Snyder says he stepped down. What does this mean here for the Jazz? That's already facing some drama between Rudy Gobert wanting to step away, doesn't really want to be the guy there anymore. I don't know. What does that mean for Danny Ainge right now as well? Like the guy came from Boston, who hired hired Doc Rivers and Brad Stevens. Then he's had the Utah Jazz and he has to go out and hire another coach. So let me get some thoughts here. What's going through your guys' mind? Nick, I'll let you kick it off here.
So 2 things come to my mind. Number one, I think Qyinn Snyder looked around and said, we're not getting anywhere. We're not getting past what we've leveled, right? We're max capacity. Unless we go out and get like a huge piece. And to get a huge piece, we'd probably have to get rid of one of those 2 guys. So I think he went to ownership and said, hey, I'm sticking. I don't know which guy he wants, right? Like he either was wanting Donovan Mitchell or he's wanting Rudy Gobert. And the owner said the opposite. And he said, it's either this guy or that guy. And he said, all right, then I'm not coming here to rebuild. Or maybe they said, we're going to try to get rid of both guys. And he said, I'm not going to stick around. Qyinn Snyder's a hell of a coach. I mean, for all he did I kind of shit on the Jazz. Actually, it was exactly like 5 years ago today. I read on my Facebook memories, I shit on the Jazz for hiring Qyinn Snyder for what he did at Mizzou. But I was dead wrong on that one. Cold take on me. So
real quick, his record too was 372 and 264, second best high winning percentage behind Jerry Sloan, of course, with Karl Malone, John Stockton era. So, yeah, he did a hell of a job there. So, go ahead and keep going. I just wanted to point that out for you.
Yeah, no, exactly. They just maxed out, right? They used all their max potential, and they're not gonna, they're not gonna contend. I mean, they're gonna still always middle around that 4 or 5 seed, maybe the 3 seed on the best, their best time. But they probably look around the league and say, the Mavs are gonna add. We're not gonna beat them. There's the Suns depend on what they do. The Lakers, depending on what they do, there's certain teams that they're just like, they're not going to be able to go out and buy these big free agents either. They've built this team from within. They've added some, small free agencies. But I think Qyinn looked around and said, hey, either we're maxed out and either Rudy's going to go and Donovan's my guy, or Rudy's my guy and Donovan's got to go, or maybe the owner said we're blowing it all up. And Qyinn just said, I'll sit out a year and he'll get a good job next year. A good team's going to want him. Maybe even he goes back to college because now it's legal to damn near pay your players. So maybe he goes back to college.
Might as well.
Right?
Might as well. I mean, JG, what are your thoughts here on the Jazz and Qyinn Snyder?
Well, the funny thing to me is, I said all those years ago when Missouri got rid of Qyinn Snyder, and the Mizzou fans, they hated me for this. I said that was the biggest mistake that you ever made. I said that the 2 years after they got rid of him, because he was already in the G League, and I think he won a championship in his first couple years in the G League, and now obviously he's a successful coach. And so, yeah, the Mizzou thing, that's a different story, but they obviously made a huge mistake getting rid of him. As far as the Jazz are concerned, I mean, we've heard rumblings that Donovan Mitchell wanted out long before Qyinn Snyder even resigned. And so I think if that was the case back then, it most certainly is the case now that he wants out. And quite honestly, Nick, you talked about the Jazz being maxed out. You're exactly right on that. And when I say maxed out, I'm talking about the age of this roster. So Mike Conley's 35 years old when next season starts. Rudy Gobert is going to be 30. Bogdanovich will be 33. Jordan Clarkson turns 30 tomorrow, actually. So all these guys are on the wrong side of 30. I mean, Hassan Whiteside, he's like a shell of what he used to be. He's 33 years old. Yeah. And you don't want to know how old Rudy Gay is. I'm not even going to say it, but
the fact that Rudy Gay's still in the league is a miracle.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, these guys,
Rudy's got to be 40, right? 45.
Yeah, I think he's like 36, 37, but
might as well.
Yeah,
be 45.
the bottom line is the Jazz must blow it up and start over, because this team is full of nothing but old bums. If you trade Donovan Mitchell, that's what you've got left, a bunch of old bums, not to be confused with the LA Lakers, who are much older bums. They were the oldest roster in the league this year. But you got to blow it up, dude, because I think they were the number 5 seed this year, so they couldn't even host a playoff series. And normally that's not a big deal. It depends on if you've got ascending players or descending players. These are mostly all descending players except for Donovan Mitchell. And so, yeah, I mean, you're in the number 5 seed with a bunch of old bums. There's only one way to go, and that's down.
And they lost 2 games to the Mavs without Luka in the lineup, or was it 2 or 3 games? So I think that tells you all you need to know right there. You can't even beat the Mavericks without Luka Doncic in the lineup, and you have your 2 all-star caliber players, 2 all-star type players with that aging roster.
Yeah,
and the difference is, you're talking the Lakers. At least the Lakers still have LeBron, who's aging, and he's still LeBron. And I'll take an aging LeBron over any of those aging guys that you just named.
Right. And I just think that with Donovan Mitchell, if he wants out of there anyway, you could get a pretty good haul for him. And it's not like, obviously you're going to be in a rebuild, but, just go ahead and start your rebuild, get as much as you can for Donovan Mitchell, who still has a couple years left on his contract, I think. But, yeah, let him go. Let him go, dude.
Donovan has still 3 years on his deal right now. I looked it up.
Yeah.
3 years on this deal. That doesn't even include the player option, I believe. So so technically you got him for about 4 years. I was kind of reading some maybe trade possibilities today for Donovan. There was 2 that I really liked. It was to the Knicks. The Knicks could bring him home. He's a New York native, and they were talking about trading R.J. Barrett, a couple other role players, and a couple first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. I think if you're the Jazz, that's pretty decent deal. You get a young star, young 20-year-old kid, and R.J. Barrett, plus a first-round pick. I'd have to look. I can't remember quite the other one that I liked. I know the Hawks were kind of talking maybe, you team up. You just play all offense if you're the Hawks, right? You team up Trae Young and Donovan, because they would have gave up like John Collins and a couple first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. So there's teams out there that can make that move. And, I mean, who doesn't want somebody like a Donovan Mitchell to help you out?
Yeah, I agree on that. Because, I mean, if I'm either one of those teams, I'm looking at whatever you want to do right now. Because
just to be clear, guys, I'm trading Rudy Gobert as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's a perennial all-star, and he still has a lot of value. I'm trading both of those guys. This is basically sounds like my Kansas City Royals take. I'm trading
Trade them all.
Dude. Get whatever you can and build for the future.
I was thinking, I think like the Thunder approach, right? Like trade your guys, acquire young kids, young assets, as many draft picks as you can by trading these two guys, and kick the can down the road. Hopefully in the next, 4 or 5 years, you'll have your team. But I would trade if I was going to keep Donovan, I'm going to trade Rudy Gobert because he's older and you can still build around Donovan Mitchell because he's still a young star. But I mean, if you're going to blow it up, why not trade both of them? Why not collect young assets and young kids? Because like I said, I think R.J. Barrett could be just as good, if not better, eventually, especially on the defensive side, as Donovan Mitchell is. Even better on the defensive side.
Yeah, and I would also say trade Jordan Clarkson. I think there's a lot of value there as well. So get rid of all three. Your best three players, get rid of all of them.
And I don't know where Mike Conley, what his contract situation is there, but I mean, those are two veteran point guards, especially Jordan Clarkson, who can score. There's always going to be teams that, especially a championship caliber team, that's going to want a Jordan Clarkson to come off the bench, a spark plug, or even a Mike Conley. Every team loves a good veteran point guard. So especially for those championship deep runs, a good guy who plays good defense, unselfish. Those are two key pieces that they could trade. You're not going to get a huge haul for either one of them, but you could get a second or a first for one of them, and just be fine with that if you don't get any players in return.
And I do think that Jordan Clarkson on many teams would be a starter in this league. And so again, a lot of value with all three of those guys. Mike Conley, sure. He's like 35 years old. You might as well just keep him at this point, but trade anybody with value.
Yeah, get your picks, get it all in. So just real quick here, also the Jazz were 21-30 in the postseason under Snyder. Of course, not quite the postseason you want to go. 2 years ago they were number 1 seed. This year they were number 5, so rough deal. Some coaches that could be in consideration for this job here: former Blazers coach Terry Stotts, Jazz assistant Alec Jansen, Celtics assistant Will Hardy, Knicks assistant Johnny Bryant, Raptors assistant Adrian Griffin, and also Charles Lee of the Bucks. There could be another Bucks assistant going somewhere to coach basketball, because we already saw the Lakers take advantage of it. So Charles Lee could also be linked to it as well. Any kind of idea for coaches in your mind that you would like to see arrive at the Jazz, or it's just kind of like, hey, whoever goes there is just gonna kind of have to deal with it for a few years, and then when they get another coach, that's when things will kick off?
Well, the first guy that came to my mind was David Fizdale, because I think he deserves another chance. He's a younger guy, and I think if you're going to blow it up and start over, you want to get one of these younger coaches in there that are kind of still trying to make a name for themselves. So Fizdale was my first thought that might be able to get that job.
He's gone 2 places and it didn't work out. Went to Memphis, and nobody works out in New York really, so I won't hold that against him, especially. So, but I wouldn't. Nobody work. Like I said, nobody works out in New York. It feels like. I like Terry Stotts. It depends on what they do to me. Like, if Donovan Mitchell's going to be there, bring Terry Stotts in, because we saw what he could do for what he did for Dame. Dame time, yeah. Damian Lillard. So we saw what he did for him. So it just depends on what they do with the roster and who their coach is going to be. If you're going to blow it all up and you're starting from scratch, then get, I don't mind the Milwaukee Bucks, their assistant, just because like they've kind of built that team from scratch and built it up through the draft and acquired a few guys there and there. Now, I mean, I'm sure there's no Giannis Antetokounmpo that's just laying around here anytime soon, but I mean, that's always going to help you out if you got somebody like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It'll be kind of interesting to see how this will, because Danny Ainge did say that he did want to keep. He came out of the meeting, the press conference, of essentially we said, hey, we want you to Qyinn Snyder, and Qyinn Snyder's like, nope, it's time. I got to move on. So it's not like they were trying to get rid of him. Quinn's just like, it's time to move forward. So interesting thing to see with the Jazz, to see how well that kind of goes on. We'll have to monitor that situation through the off season. It is so. All right, guys, it's up in the finals here. It's the finals discussion. Obviously, it's 1-1 series. Each team kind of took it away. Actually, not really the fourth quarter, because Golden State got beat in the fourth quarter technically. So, which is kind of surprising to me. But let's get some thoughts here. What is our number one most concern for each team? For Golden State and Boston Celtics. JG, I'll let you kick this one off.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Boston here. And my biggest concern for them is kind of the same thing that has been my concern throughout the playoffs, and that is the amount of turnovers that they keep committing. So they had 18 turnovers in this game, and Marcus Smart actually had 5 of those. And so they've got to clean that up. I mean, you're probably going to see at least another couple games where they turn the ball over like that. But I do have a solution. And as a Golden State Warriors fan, I hope to God that Ime Udoka is not listening to this show, because
I think I see him just pop in the chat.
He will be very tempted to implement what I am going to tell you right now. So one of the biggest issues with all their turnovers is the fact that Marcus Smart is not a true point guard. That is not his natural position. So I understand he's not the only guy that's turning the ball over, but my solution for Boston would be to put a natural point guard into the starting unit. Now, Derek White has been coming off the bench ever since he got to Boston, but when he was with San Antonio, he was always a starter. And I know he got injured a lot, so there might have been a couple times where he came off the bench, but he is a starting caliber point guard in the league, and that is his natural position. So if I'm Ime Udoka, I would insert Derek White into the starting lineup. There's no reason for you to start 2 centers every game, so they start Horford and Robert Williams. There's really no reason for that, and so that's my solution. And if it happens, as a Golden State Warriors fan, I'm going to be scared shitless if they do it. But that would be my solution, because I think if you have Derek White in the starting unit, you can still keep Marcus Smart as a starter. You don't have to bring him off the bench. I'd probably bring actually Al Horford off the bench, because he would give you some firepower. Obviously, very good at spacing the floor, can shoot threes. I'd probably bring him off the bench with that second unit as, maybe their best scorer in the second unit. Leave Marcus Smart in the starting unit, but have Derek White run the show, because he's a natural point guard. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to be turning the ball over left and right, especially in the fourth quarter and the end game situations. I probably said this before. I just don't trust Marcus Smart in end game situations to not turn the ball over, because that's what he keeps doing. So that's my first concern.
So JG, that's exactly the same thing I had for Boston as well as turnovers, because the Warriors had 15 steals on Sunday, 15 compared to the 5 that Boston ended up with. That means 15 out of the 18 are steals coming away. Like, what the world's going on?
And it's a reoccurring problem, like we saw in the Miami series. It cost them a few games in Miami. I think one game in Miami, they had like 17 turnovers, and Miami was able to, get a couple good games because, they do turn the ball over. Even that game, Miami came back and almost won. It looked like Miami or Boston was just going to fumble it over. Like, they do turn the ball over at alarming rate. And if you want to be a championship caliber in any sport, you can't
do it.
Yeah, football, you can't have turnovers. Baseball, you can't have errors. You can't beat yourselves. I mean, the Warriors are already good enough, and you're just going to let them beat you. Like, you are beating yourself by turning that over. You can't do that against a high quality team like the Warriors, especially with somebody like Steph Curry who's cooking right now.
Right, and that's what I talked on the preview show last week too. Was the turnovers was the worrisome. So JG, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you on that one. So what's your Warriors concern?
I would say for the Warriors, it's all about Klay Thompson. So he hasn't really shown up yet in the series. Yeah, well, we can go back and forth about it because, I mean, there's a lot of there's a couple other concerns with the Warriors, but Klay was 4 of 19 in that game, 1 of 8 from 3. And, if that was just his shooting percentage and we thought that he was cold, that would be one thing. But the reason why it's my biggest concern is that I've got to give credit to Boston's defense because it's not just that he's shooting poorly. They're actually shutting him down to a certain extent. And I do think that he's going to turn it around. You're going to see probably at least 2 games in this series that we're going to look back and call it a Klay Thompson game. So I do think he's going to turn it around, even though he doesn't have the same burst that he did before the injuries. But even in he actually played a little bit better in game 1. He was 6 of 14. But for starters, that would be my biggest concern as a Warriors fan, which I am, would be Klay Thompson. Second concern is Draymond Green, because we don't want to repeat of what happened in 2016. Don't wreck your dreams and your team's dreams by getting kicked out of a game or possibly getting suspended. He got tangled up in game 2 with Jaylen Brown, tried to pull his pants down, gave him a little shove there. And the refs, they let him get away with it this time. And then he bragged about it. He was bragging about it on his podcast.
Yep.
So, I mean,
that's not going to happen now. Draymond, shut your mouth. Like, somebody's got to tell him.
Somebody's got to literally grab him by the shirt or by the throat. Maybe Steve Kerr, since he used to get punched by Jordan back in the day in the face. Right. Maybe he's got the balls to actually grab him by the throat and say, "Hey, clean your shit up. This is the fucking finals, and I don't want you getting kicked out of the fucking game." So
it's a place and time for it.
Draymond is the guy we all know that makes that team run, and I don't care about his stats. He is the engine for that team, and if they don't have him, dude, this is a wrap. This series will be a wrap. The Celtics will win, but those are my 2 main concerns for the Warriors.
Gotcha. Real quick here, Kenneth Miller here had a comment here. Minutes adding up, leading to sloppy play, the ECF, and now the finals for Boston. So, that is for Klay. It is adding up. So,
they've been in. So we talked about it before. They've been in the wars, the battles, and it is adding up. It is.
But not for the team I thought it would. I thought Boston would be a struggle a lot more than I thought the Warriors, just for the fact that all on their series. So, JG actually took both of mine because Klay Thompson was my big worry. He's just not the same. Like, he's just not what I thought he would be these first 2 games at all. And he is starting to become a concern. But, your pool parties, luckily having some great minutes off the bench and executing. He's got a shirt on.
What did you guys think of that buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter? He just made a 3, and then after that, he launched it just inside of half court.
Steph Curry-esque.
Yeah, that was sick, dude.
He's learning from the Splash Brothers.
Yeah,
dude, I was scared.
Splash Bro right now. There's only one.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I mean, you took my worry here, and I was going to say, will the real Klay Thompson please stand up? Will the real Klay Thompson please stand up? Because
he's coming. They
you ain't been around. You ain't been around. If I told you Klay Thompson's only made 4 3-pointers in 2 games, you would have thought Boston's up 2-0.
Oh yeah.
I mean, 2-0. They should. Klay Thompson, where are you at? And that's my biggest trouble. It's not just Klay either, though. It's like, who's cooking besides Steph? Where's he going to get his help from? Jordan Poole dipped in 17 last night and helped him out, and especially in the third, and they got that going. But outside of Steph Curry, like, who you look at, like, for the Warriors, Draymond's not – I mean, Draymond doesn't have to score to affect the game. We know that. But Steph's going to need somebody. I mean, Kayvon Looney, I haven't seen him either in 2 games. Where he been at? He left his game back in Dallas. Where's that? Where Clay
They're playing that small ball. They're playing that small ball.
Clay Thompson hasn't shown up. Like Steph's gonna score 30. I mean, but he might have to score. He might have to get a 50-pointer in one of these 2 games if somebody else doesn't decide to show up. I mean, if that game was close last night and they didn't have a big lead, Steph's probably scoring 50. He's going to have to, right? And then if he gets another quarter to play, he's probably scoring at least another. He had 32, 36 last night. That game's close. He's going to have to score another 15 or plus to go into to win it in the fourth. Luckily for him, Boston didn't play that well in the third quarter. So it's kind of everybody for Golden State is concerning outside of Steph Curry. He said, "Oh, I ain't got no NBA Finals MVP. I'm gonna show y'all because I'm gonna cook everybody," and he's cooking. But he needs some. Hey, he's cooking the main course, but he needs some little razzle dazzle to spickle in the soup because Chef Curry he can't do it all right now. I mean, it's close, but he needs some help, and he needs the help from his splash brother, Klay Thompson, and Clay ain't been nowhere to been found.
Yeah, Clay is definitely going to show up. The only question is how many games, and I think the number is 2. He's got to show up in 2 games in this series. Some people think it's 3 games, but I think if you just get 2 huge games from Clay, I think they're going to win the series. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the team, I mean, Jordan Poole gets you 17, maybe 20 in a couple games, but Wiggins might get you 18 or 20 in like 1 or 2 games, but Clay's the man. He's got to show up, and I think he will.
He's supposed to be the Robin, and he's not being the Robin.
He's not being the Robin.
You know who's being the Robin is, and I talked about it on Let's Talk Sports. I said give Jaylen Brown the Scottie Pippen Award because he's doing it for Boston.
He is.
I said give him the Scottie Pippen Award because he's going quietly about his business. He's letting Jason Tatum be the superstar, and he's being the Scottie Pippen. So give Jaylen Brown the Scottie Pippen, but we need Clay. If the Warriors want to win this series, Klay Thompson got to be the Scottie Pippen. He got to be that splash brother that we know he can be and that we've seen him be.
Yeah, look what Jaylen Brown did though game 1 too. The reason the Boston won game 1 was because Jaylen Brown. It wasn't Jason Tatum. Tatum's only scored 12 points. Brown showed up. That was a huge factor right there. That's kind of what you need is that 1-2 punch, and Warriors don't have it right now.
To be fair though, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, neither one of them did shit in that game. I'm sorry. Tatum had 28 points, guys. You know how many points were in the second half? 7. So if you're a superstar, I'm sorry. If you're a superstar in the NBA Finals, you don't put up 7 points in the second half. He did.
Well, I mean, that game got out of hand in the third quarter.
It did.
And that's
I'm not giving Jason Tatum credit for that game. He did not show up the way we expect a superstar to show up.
So that's kind of my concern about Boston is where's Boston's like spectacular defense? I mean, really, they're 1 quarter away from being down 2-0, and that they had that big fourth quarter in game 1, but they were going down. They were down 10 or 11 going into that quarter. It's been close the first half, and then it's like the third quarter, the Warriors just come out blazing. So where's either the second half adjustments? Or they just not showing up in that quarter, and that's what's putting them down. And they're one bad quarter. The fourth quarter is where they tore it up in game 1. But if they just play mediocre that quarter, they may not be there. So where's this Boston defense that we've been saying has been so good all year?
Yeah, I mean that would bring me to my other concern with Boston is the fact that every time I listen to, what Boston has done in the playoffs so far, I hear it over and over again. Oh my gosh, they haven't lost 2 consecutive games throughout the entire playoffs. And the more and more I hear that, the more and more I know that it's coming to an end. And so it's probably going to happen in the series. In fact, it must happen for the Warriors to have a chance. And I don't know if it's going to be back-to-back right now. I don't know if Boston will lose game 3. Or if it's going to happen in games 4 or 5. But I do believe that they will finally, after all this time, lose 2 consecutive games in the playoffs because it's just that streak that they're on is just unsustainable. And they've played some good teams, But now they're going up against the Warriors, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep that streak going. I do think that you'll see Boston lose 2 consecutive games in this series.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to happen here. So, guys, let's do a quick recap here. How we're feeling from our original preview picks, right? I don't feel so good because I picked a 4-0 sweep, dude, going into this play. So, and then Klay Thompson as my MVP. Well, no show Klay, and already the 4-0 sweep's gone on 12 points to Tatum. Like, for God's sake. So, I'm still picking Golden State to win here. This could go 6. I think I'm going to go up to 6 now on this one. But as far as my MVP pick, Klay's not it. I'd have to go either Steph or I think the dark horse Wiggins could come out and play here very shortly. So those would be my thoughts here. But what's your thoughts, JG?
Yeah, I'm gonna pump it up here a little. I originally said Warriors in 6, so I'm gonna bump that up to 7 because you guys all know I'm a conspiracy theorist anyway, and we all know how much the NBA. Oh my gosh, the NBA will make so much more money if we have a 7-game series, and everybody loves it. It just makes the world go round. So I'm gonna pump it up here. I think the Warriors will win it in 7 games.
Still Steph Curry as your MVP?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt because nobody else has really done anything in games 1 and 2. I mean, somebody would have to go on a tear. Like Klay would have to just have 2 or 3
amazing
monster games to have it not be Steph, and then Steph would have to not show up in 2 or 3 of the games. So yeah, Steph is still going to be my MVP.
All right, Nick, what you got?
Man, I said Warriors in 6. I'm sticking with it. I just think I'm actually more confident than I was going into it, because I think the series should be 2-0 Warriors. I just think that they played one shitty quarter and the Celtics took the game 1. But I think just flat out, I think the Warriors. And I said Steph Curry, and Steph Curry, I mean, he's proven me absolutely 100% right. I mean, like you just said, ain't nobody done shit on either team really outside of Steph for these 2 games. Like where you're stamped twice. Hey, check. Steph Curry, check. Everybody else, maybe 1 mark and another mark, but Steph's double check. So I feel more confident and that it's 6 now. Tomorrow night or Wednesday night, they could go shit the bed and the Celtics take game 2, and I might say, well, shit, I was wrong, but hey, it won't be the first time, won't be the last time.
Hey, we got one more show before this whole thing ends, so we'll see what happens here. But all right, guys, well. We're going to call it a night here. We'll see what happens by the time next Monday rolls around for the NBA Finals. But, guys, make sure you go catch Nick's show, Bodkins Show, every Sunday night, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Central, and then also on this Tuesday night, weekly sports recap. So check that out. And then you can check us out on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central. We're going to be on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm sure we'll have a little bit of football again talk about here this week. So, but I know, right now it's NBA primarily with the finals going on. So make sure you guys check us out, and then go check out Let's Talk Sports. Go give them a follow. They have different interviews and podcasters and content every day. And it's actually really cool to hop on to see different views from different guys. So make sure you guys go follow them. So outside of that, everybody, thanks for joining. Nick, JG, thanks for joining here on the Monday night. Everybody have a great night. See you guys.
Buffoons, we're out.